everyone at home, this is actually our second time coaching together. A long time ago, I really, really wanted to win the Ragavan at the first Secret Lair Showdown, so we did a coaching session. I'm just really excited that we get to do this again, and you can see how much I've grown.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it too. It's nice to be back. Thank you so much for inviting me.
And also, one of my favorite things from that session, I have a voice clip of you saying that I played that game perfectly. So every now and then I feel a little bad. I just listen to it. I'm kidding. That's
nice. Well, maybe we could get another clip like that.
Yeah.
We'll see how this one goes.
All right. So here's our first 7, and I believe we are on the draw. So no idea what they're playing at the moment. And then looking at this hand, so also this is the first time I'm playing, well, this is the first league I'm playing with this deck, so I'm not super familiar, but I am familiar with the cards. So when I see a hand like this, the first thing I'm thinking is like, okay, we're on the draw. The hand doesn't really have like a super good threat. I'm thinking, obviously play Spyglass Siren turn 1, and then afterwards, like, Deep Cavern back to see their hand's okay, but there's a lot of removal in this format right now. We're not using to jam anything through. We have a little bit of removal, but we don't have like a threat, right? Like if this has a Shieldred or something a little bit bigger, maybe an Enduring Curiosity, I would be much happier. But we do have our lands, we do have stuff to do. So I'm inclined to keep it, but what do you think?
Yeah, those are my thoughts exactly. This hand has the nice opening with, plays on the first 3 turns, and you're really would love to find a payoff card like Enduring Curiosity or Kaito or something like that in order to make it great. But if a hand has to have a missing piece, I would much rather have the good start in place and let the bigger play come off the top of the library, because you have more chances to find that. You're even gonna have a map token to use with the Siren. So I think this is a really good keep, and just, kind of counting on the top of the library to deliver something in the first 4, 5, 6 draw steps.
Interesting, yeah. So what you're saying is just because we have like a pretty good like game plan on early turns, and the only thing we're waiting for is just drawing that threat, that this is a pretty good keep.
Yep, I would much rather have a hand give me a good opening and then need something a little bit later on, as opposed to needing something right away. Like if you had this hand but you had no island, no blue mana, then it would be a lot dicier.
Yeah, that's interesting, because something that I don't know if this is like the CDH player in me, like something that I've really focused on in my mulligans lately is the idea of like, what is that thing that we really need to win this game, right? And I think normally when I look at a hand like this, the idea, like, you could construct an argument that's like, well, our only threat is Spyglass Siren, and if we don't draw that kind of like mid-game threat like that Kaito, the Curiosity, the thing, this hand's pretty like anemic, as people will say online. So It's good to hear that this is still like very keepable, because we do have a good plan and we can draw. All right, so let's get started. I'm going to go through their turn. They play a Swamp.
I noticed the opponent has a 61 card deck.
Oh, interesting.
Probably not too much information to be gained there, but just kind of like a fun thing to notice.
Yeah, I didn't even notice that. The thing I usually look for nowadays is like, is there a companion? But obviously there's no companions in this format, so definitely change the dynamic here. All right, let's draw. And another Siren. So I'm actually pretty happy with the Sirens, just because it's like an aggressive play, and like removing it with cut down or something also doesn't feel super good, because you still get the map back. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. Obviously, we're playing the Dark Slick first, then playing the Siren here, but that's kind of what I'm thinking.
Yep, perfect.
Let's see if the Rebel of this time did exactly what I said. All right. It's always fun when I watch myself not do the thing I say. It happens very often. All right, so here they didn't play anything. So they didn't cut down, which doesn't eliminate what, like, the cut down in their hand. It's just they didn't spend the mana there. All right, so couple options. First one is, so the options that we have is Bat this turn or Spyglass Siren. We haven't seen any removal, so I think playing Bat here is not super good. So I'm inclined to think that I crack the map, see if they cut down, and then go to combat, and then afterwards play the second Siren. What do you think?
It's a good line. This is certainly a less obvious turn than the first one. You know, to organize my thoughts in a spot like this, one of the early things that I do is try to make a list of what they could realistically have. So let's say it's a mirror match. You know, they could have removal, like you talked through. They could have phantom interference. They could just be planning to flash in fairy mastermind. They did keep a 7-card hand, so it's probably not super likely that they kept something with nothing to play in the first 2 turns. So yeah, I like your prediction that they probably have a removal spell, and then what to do with that information is tricky, because you know, you could just play the bat and expecting it to get removed, but at least you spent your mana and you got to see their hand. Or you could take your line, which is like a little bit trickier, of trying to bait out the removal spell and then stick the bat uncontested the following turn. And I would say I'm okay with either of those. Either just playing the bat and just accepting that it's probably going to get killed, or using the map, playing a new Siren, and then having bat plus map the following turn. Even another question is, if you're going to do the map, do you want to do it before or after combat? Because you know, if they do cut down, then you have an opportunity to get in a sneaky point of damage if you attack first. But yeah, I would say I'm really okay with any direction that you want to take from here.
Yeah, so I mean, this is why Standard's so awesome right now, because there's so many decisions, like so many options you could take. So I totally forgot Fairy Mastermind, even though we play it in our deck as well. The 3 options here, right? Like, I think we could play bat and bait out the removal and just get more information what their hand is. I was thinking about not playing bat here because at the moment I don't super care about what's in their hand. Like, I was thinking that potentially there might be a point where the bat's going to deliver a lot more value in terms of, like, I might need a spell through or tap their mana and put something in. Because we know that bat's the bat's not living long in this matchup. There's so much removal. So it's going to get killed regardless. So the thinking I had with being aggressive Siren is that cut down on Siren doesn't feel super good in terms of targets. Cut down on bat feels good. And then the token, I was thinking, if I crack it now, I guess it's like putting 1 point or 2 points is important, because they're going to remove it regardless. So hard to say. I think I just want to bait out their cut down. I'm not sure.
Okay, I'm on board.
Oh, we didn't bait it out. We just went for combat, the tricky damage. And then thinking through, oh, I played the bat. See?
One of those spots where past Rebel and future Rebel don't agree. But, you know, I think we talked through all the plays and this decided that this was one of several perfectly reasonable options.
Yeah. I forgot about this. All right, this is so interesting because of the end and the virtue persistence. So I was actually very concerned that they're going to virtue my Siren on their turn, because I'm assuming after looking at their hand, this game's going to go much longer. We don't have a very good threat, and if they're playing this could be more controlling. So if they get to stick that enchantment, I don't have counterspell, like, I'm in trouble. So I'm like really hoping they actually don't kill my Siren here, because now I'm thinking I might have to anoint my own Siren. So they draw and pass. Now, interesting. I guess play land or crack the map on the spyglass first and try and put a point of damage, because we know they don't have at the moment removal for it. Oh, nope. And then play a second one. Oh yeah, the other option is play the other one. What do you think about that turn?
Well, one of the key cards that you saw when you use the bat's ability is Demolition Field.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking this game's going to go slow and kind of operate on thin margins, as you're alluding to with the virtue. So you're going to get one shot out of that fountain port, and I think what you want to do with it is probably sacrifice one of the maps to draw a card.
Yeah.
So I love that you didn't just, you know, use all your material right away, cracking both maps. You could have used one, but I think what you chose to do here is hold up Anoint with Affliction, which can allow you to kill your own creature if you want to and put that virtue into the graveyard so you don't have to worry about it later. Or, you know, of course, your opponent could just play a creature and then you anoint that. So this is a cool play that you made here and makes sense to me.
Yeah. Like, it's funny because when I play, like, I'm able to think in a different way than, like, sitting back and watching it. And oftentimes I try to, like, when I'm reviewing these games, I'm really good at finding a line. When I'm playing it, I'm not as good as finding a line. Something about being in the game and sitting back changes a lot. But sometimes I notice that like I overthink when I'm sitting back here, and I think I played the Siren here because we're gonna get 2 points of damage regardless. So I think getting more bodies out there is like a little bit better than putting the map. I started to think about how Fountain Port was going to interact with the token because I haven't played this card before, but I knew that I can't jam this Fountain Port because of that demo field. The demo field either is going to get our Fountain Port or the if we draw like the Restless guy, well, it's the tap land that turns into a creature.
Restless Reef, yep.
Yeah, and I think in this matchup the Port does a lot more than the creature. So holding on to that Port seemed important. All right, let's see what they do. They're tapping mana. Oh yeah, I remember this.
Oh
right.
no. 2 anoints against the Sheoldred.
Yeah, it feels less good. I really thought the game was going to go really awry here. So it's a really tough spot. So at this point, I think we were saying that we might want to hold on to the Fountain Port because of that demo field. But if we don't draw removal for that Sheoldred, the game's going to go really, really bad really quickly. So I might have to just jam the Fountain Port to start eating those tokens just to draw something, or just crack those tokens to see if we could like top deck into that removal, which is more mana efficient. But I guess the first thing is just see what we draw first before we talk too much behind it. Yep, feels bad. We drew a land. All right, so at this, let's resolve that first. At this point, we can just, our options are play Port, crack a map, also offer 3 mana to draw a card, or pay 1 to look at the top card and leave mana open, and then tough, and then holding a Spyglass Siren to block.
Well, I think almost no matter what you choose, you're going to use one of the map tokens. It's a good opportunity to do it because your opponent has no mana untapped to respond, and it can give you a little bit of information about your top card and help you decide. So I would start by tapping one of the lands, say the island, using a map on 1 Siren, see what happens from there.
And are you choosing that over the Fountain Port because it's just like we're gonna crack it anyway, so we picked like the cheaper option?
Well, I don't expect that you're going to be able to use the Fountain Port 2 turns back to back because of Demolition Field. And if you do decide to use your mana on sacrificing a token with Fountain Port, you'll still have 1 mana left over because it's only 2 in tap to sack the token. So yeah. The second map is flexible. You have the luxury to use that how you want to, and then the other one is the one you want to be more,
right? I see.
Consider more precious.
The other consideration also is still, it feels bad, being mindful of that virtue. So we still might have to hold mana up to do the thing. All right, we just jammed our Fountain Port out. All right, that's a Kaido. I don't think Kaido's helpful at this moment, unfortunately. Well, I could bring it in and tap down that Sheoldred, but I'm still gonna draw cards and lose that way. I'm thinking we just need a removal spell. Oh, I cracked both maps. I pushed away the Curiosity, and then we took a very aggressive stance here. All right, they draw, they cast a Virtue, a Spyglass Siren, remove it, and I think they click way too fast and missed a lot of damage there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, which really...
4 points of damage in a close game with Sheoldred is somewhat meaningful. Also did not Demolition Field your Fountain Port.
Yeah, I think they probably didn't think it through all the way because you probably just tap one of these instead and keep the demo field up to pop this. So giving us a little bit of a chance, which is kind of cool because we're just drawing lands right now. So I think just play Restless Reef and then hold back the Siren. There's not much we can do. Right? Oh, actually, no, that's not true. That's not true. Nope, that's true. That's true. I could play this and make a treasure token and save a point and just make like that. I either make a treasure or a fish, and I think playing the Restless Reef is slightly better. I'm not sure. Does it matter?
Yeah, I agree with playing Restless Reef and making a fish. The only thing I'm going over in my head is if you want to, if you're intending to chump block with the Siren or attack. Yeah. I think you probably can afford to squeeze in one more attack because you want to think about, what's the scenario where you actually win this game, and it's going to involve, okay, you go for the throat, really quickly in your next 2 draw steps, but then you still have to win even after you answer the Sheoldred. And I think having the Siren still there to help you, to help make sure your best draws are still alive, like Enduring Curiosity, I think I would be, sacrifice the 4 points of life to keep the Siren around at least one more time.
That's interesting because that's exactly what I did. I'm going to attack with the Siren here because I'm thinking I could take 4 because it didn't attack last turn. And we could make a fish to chump block or something and see an extra card. What I immediately reacted afterwards was they gained the 2 life back, and I was like, oh, that was kind of a waste. But I didn't think about the part about like the longer term of the game where this piece was necessary for us to get closer to a win, because we still don't have any threats in our hand, and they could demo field the Restless Reef. So interesting.
Yeah, I think there's, it's kind of like in our instinct to play scared here and say, oh, well, I can't race the Sheoldred and I want to jump block and keep my life total high. But what you really want to do is think about like the branching, the branches of how the game can go. And in all of the branches where the Sheoldred goes unanswered, you're losing.
Right.
So you don't really care about those. And, in the branches where you do find an answer to Sheoldred, I think you'd rather be at 10 and have the 2/2 flying compared to being at 14 and having nothing.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So here they destroy the reef, take those, and then an Unholy Annex. So we're in a lot of trouble. And this time they didn't forget to attack. So here I could chump, but I also kind of just want to get I just want to have more draws because we have to deal with that Sheoldred. So I think we just take 4.
Yeah, I agree.
Please remember to Fountain Port. There we go. Okay.
Yeah, and then you could either make a treasure pain-free, or you could make a fish with the plan to next turn block and sack the fish. I think those plays are pretty close, and I'm okay with either.
Okay, so this is like a more meta question. When there are plays like that are really close, how do you decide which one, right? Because you say you're okay with either, and usually the way I do it is just kind of like I get 2 equally good options, and I just trust my instinct to be like, I think this is the one to go with. But I don't know, like, how do you decide situations like that?
Well, it's a great question because I have sort of 2 like hats that I can put on, either when I'm sitting there playing the game myself, or almost as frequently these days I'm in the seat that I am now, like as a coach or a commentator. And when I'm not sure what the best play is, I don't really want to like steamroll someone and be like, oh, you have to do it my way. I would rather people just kind of think it through and take the game, in the direction that they think is best and learn from that experience instead of me, ruling with an iron fist and making every play the way I want it to go. But when I do play the games, I try to have the mentality that even the really small decisions matter and can change the outcome of the game.
Yeah.
Because the fact is, you never know when a small choice is going to be really important. So the best practice is just to treat them all like they're really important, and then you'll make fewer boneheaded errors. But also you face 10,000 decisions in a game of Magic, so you can't sit there and take 2 minutes thinking about every single small one. So you just kind of like take a beat, don't rush, give everything the attention that it deserves, and make the best decision that you can make in the moment. So here, I think I would have gone with the fish, thinking about like, okay, if I draw a land, how do I want the turn to go? I'm probably going to want to put something in front of the Sheoldred. Maybe I get a little bit more value or more points of life over the long run by chump blocking and sacking instead of saving a point of life up front with the treasure. But there are a lot of draw steps where your turn doesn't go like that, and it's hard to think them all through in the first place. So, long rambling answer to your question to just say you're not always going to know, and you just have to make the decision that you think is best.
See, what I really like about that answer is kind of, I think what you said was, I have to look back at the footage, is giving the amount of attention it deserves, right? Because like one thing I when I first started coaching or like getting coached, I kind of figured like, all right, every little decision, I'm gonna like Doctor Strange this, where I calculate every branch and find the one that wins, right? But then like obviously, especially in a format like this, where there's so many little decisions, like that's not efficient, right? Like these moments don't exactly deserve that level of detail. So something that can help.
Yeah.
There we go.
Sometimes it's a useful exercise, like when we go back and watch the replay, every once in a while, like, sure, I'll just take 20 minutes to go over a tiny play like that and think it through and consider the possibilities and, ask a handful of my friends to see what they would do. And like, that's useful once in a while as kind of an academic exercise, but you can't do that in the games. So you also have to train yourself to make decisions in the face of uncertainty and, with our far less than perfect human brains.
Yeah, I mean, we drew that go for the throat, which felt super good here.
Hooray, go for the throat.
We get to play the game. Let's go. And what's good about coaching is that you do get the time to learn this stuff. So next time when I'm faced with this kind of option, I can remember, the pay 1 actually is like a gain 3 sort of, instead of taking 4. All right. So obviously killing the children while they're tapped out. So have you think through, we'll have 1, 2, 3, 4 mana, 5 mana potentially available, so this Fountain Pour can still make a fish after I go for the throw and attack. So I think we're just all good here.
Yep, I love how you chose to do it right away because, there's no reason to wait until they untap and start drawing cards and attacking you because you're pretty sure you're going to do that no matter what.
Yeah, especially they're just going to be ripping so many cards and they're untapping. We have not seen any counter spells. We know there's still the end in their hand. There's only 2 spells left, but you never know, right? Why let chance get us there? All right, make a fish. Make a fish, please. Okay, good. All right, so this doesn't feel super good that they have a Phyrexian Arena effect, but, having 3 damage a turn is pretty good. And like, actually, going back to the little details, if we made a fish, we would be putting 4 points of damage a turn right now, which is a lot more.
True. Now, can I ask you a thought question here, which is, what do you make of the way your opponent spent their turn? Like, they clearly had things that they could have done with their mana, and they chose to do nothing. Mm-hmm. So, what are you thinking about in a turn cycle like this one?
Okay, so. Very, very good question. Because I thought about that. I was like, you pass when you can make a demon, right? And they should know that we struggled with removal because that Shieldred was uncontested for like 2 or 3 turns. So that was like a pretty safe moment to get a demon, gain 2 life, and go on attack. It's cost 6, right? I think that's what it is.
5.
Oh yeah, they definitely could have done that and still have mana open, right? So actually, if they have mana open, that. I'm reading that they don't have like good removal. They still have only holding on to the end, and they're potentially just drawing lands. But I'm still not exactly sure why. Maybe they're like very just concerned that we're gonna play a threat they really need to remove or something.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, good answer. Like they could just have the end, and they are living in fear of enduring curiosity. But yeah, I mean, I don't know what the answer is, but that just felt like something that was surprising and potentially meaningful that happened. And
I mean, it's very meaningful because
always a bit of information to gather every turn that passes.
Also just fired up the Restless Reef and wait, we had mana to make a 1/1, I think. Yeah, so never mind. Yeah, I just did think about it. So the only conclusion I had was that they weren't drawing super well up to this point because now they have 5 cards. They saw 1 extra last turn from the Annex. Here comes the demon. Oh, this is a fun turn. This is a really fun turn. It's not that fun. Okay, so they have 2 mana open, right? And here, I was concerned. First of all, I didn't know how this part worked because I thought they just don't lose 2. I didn't know they gain 2. But I was a little concerned with what mana they had open here. So they can either remove something or they can counter a spell. I don't think this format at the moment in game 1, there's like unconditional counter at 2. I think there's only that small mana leak, right? So if
there's one that I have seen people play, I think it's called Long River's Pull, and it's they can gift you a card in order to counter a spell for 2 blue mana.
Okay.
So not like Not like I'm expecting them to have that, but just it is one of many, corner case possibilities.
Yeah, so I really
Or
want.
negate, of course. Yeah, negate could be a sideboard card or a main deck card.
I was really the demon we can get rid of with the anoint, not a problem. I was concerned, like I was thinking about how do I tap their mana, right? And I think if I flash in the mastermind at end step, okay, sorry. The two options is I force the anoint. They have some counter spell I've never heard of. And counter this, and then I get to put the mastermind and draw a card. But then we have to deal with 6/6. Or I flash in the mastermind, see if they're removal, tap them out that way, then anoint them. And I went with I think playing the mastermind first. Wait, let's count mana. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, and we do everything. So even if I want to, I really want to draw. I can flash in that mastermind while that triggers on the stack. They remove it. I force us to draw. I draw another card. I draw 2 cards, then kill that thing tapped out. That was my thing.
Perfect.
Here we go. Fire it off. Can we draw? We can. Oh, interesting. Yeah, so here I was just scared about the counter spell on my anoint. I think I could have just made another fish too. Okay, let me think. I'm trying to think. I know they don't have like a counter spell. I know they don't have that counter spell now. I'm trying to think how would I deal with this. I guess we just jam it. Play a Restless Reef? No, I played the wrong land. Oopsie. All right, let's see what they do. Duress. Very good duress. Yes. They fire up their own reef, and then here we can make a fishy and save ourselves some damage. Flip over 2, 3 steps ahead, and it cut down. So all our counter spells, except the last one is just the mana leak. Yeah, that one fish would have mattered a lot actually, because we would be putting a lot more damage. That's a good draw.
Yeah, that's exactly what you needed.
I was very lucky this game. I was lucky that I drew that go for the throat relatively soon, and drawing this at this point right here after they spent the go for the throat. Their go for the throat. What is it? The mastermind.
Very mastermind.
Yeah. Here I'm just like being very aggressive. Just play everything out. If they have removal, they can spend it. There's the end on the curiosity. Nothing we can do about it. Leaving back the Restless Reef. Nope. Oh, playing another one. Oh, it drains you. See, even at this point, I don't know what these cards do. Okay. I mean, it's pretty easy, right? We just kill this, fire up the guy, and that's lethal. Yep. And that's game.
Yeah, that was a great game.
Thanks. So is there anything you wanted to go over in this particular game that we saw?
Well, I think we covered most of the big points. I would have considered the Fountain Port more of a central card, like actually from both players' perspective. Mm-hmm. So there was the one turn where you ended up going sacrifice map, and then anoint your own creature to stop the virtue from going to adventure. And that might have wound up being, a game-winning choice to make because it did go super long and they could have played the virtue and it would have gone uncontested. But I think I would have tried to give myself the option to sacrifice one of the maps to draw a card with the Fountain Port on that turn. Yeah, because if you think like in practice, what happened was you sacrificed a map and you looked at either Kaito or Enduring Curiosity and bind them, which helped you get to go for the throat equally quickly. But if instead of using the map, the Explorer, you had drawn a card, then you would have had one of those like really powerful cards as an additional piece to work with. So there's that. The turn that they had the 6/6 demon going to the end step and you had Fairy Mastermind and Anoint, I probably would have just used the Anoint right there for the sake of, mana efficiency and those couple points of life. Like I get the fear of a counterspell, but I think the counterspell is just going to get you regardless, whether it's this turn or next turn. So I would have prioritized the mana efficiency in that particular spot.
Yeah.
But anyway, great game overall and lots of back and forth there.
Thank you. Yeah. Looking back on it, I was like, I should just jam it there. That drawing a card had no meaningful difference when the anoint happened. It's just they gained life and we lost life. We're in game 2 now. They're on the play. Oh, actually, let's not talk about that. A very important thing to talk about is the sideboarding. I had this question for you because I am atrocious at sideboarding. I'm like fine when I have like a sideboard guide, obviously, to follow. I'm fine when it comes to like understanding what cards come in, what cards come out. But like when you're going into like a new format, right? And you're presented with these like sideboard options. Generally, like, what are the things you're thinking of when it comes to sideboarding? Like for here, I cut all my bats because I figured they're not gonna live. I cut down because it seemed more controlling, so there was no good targets. I shaved a couple anoints, I think, because there just wasn't enough targets again. And then I brought in the negates, and I brought in disdainful stroke because it had bigger spells. And what else? I think that's everything I brought in. The shieldred and like
yeah. Well, that's really, really close to what I would have done myself. So you definitely get my seal of approval. But yeah, we had just endless debates about how to sideboard in these matchups. And the fact is, it's really not obvious. It's, a lot of these decisions are close. And these mid-range mirrors, it matters so much, like their exact deck list and how they're sideboarding against you and play and draw. And when it boils down to it, the goal of the matchup is trying to get your answers to line up correctly against their threats and vice versa. And that's not, it's not always an exact science, So the way I tend to organize my thoughts is I divide the cards into like, okay, I definitely want these. So in that category would be, probably Kaito is one of your best cards in this matchup. You would definitely want to have those in after sideboarding. And then cards that I definitely don't want in my deck, like, for example, Cut Down, if most of their creatures cost 4 or more mana, and Cut Down's basically a dead card. And then there's cards that are, fine. Like, I wouldn't be embarrassed to have them in my deck, but I'm not super attached to them. And in that category would be Anoint with Affliction, because it can kill the 6/6 demon, or Tishana's Tidebinder because it's a flash threat that has, some other applications. So those are cards that I would be fine either having in the deck or not having in the deck. And I think the way you sideboarded it is perfectly fine and reasonable, and no objections from me.
Awesome. Another thing that I kind of learned about sideboarding recently is like, I think I've read a lot of people online say that you shouldn't one of the easiest ways to lose is that you over sideboard, right? You bring in too many cards and ruin like the deck. So I've been like a little more careful with trying to understand like what is my deck doing and what's like really important in this deck. For example,
totally. Go ahead.
Oh, or for example,
no, you go.
For example, like the Spyglass Sirens. Initially, I was gonna take them out for a hot second. I'm like, these aren't doing anything, right? But then I was like, well, we have 3 or 4 Enduring Curiosities, and we kind of need those beaters to like draw those cards, and also like bring in that Kaido, and also they're like, kind of good actually because it just wastes their removal. So like stuff like that, I've been thinking a little bit more on. Is like, what is the actual what's the main core of the deck that I cannot ruin?
Yep. Couldn't have said it better myself. I was going to use the exact same example where it's like, okay, we're so excited about Kaito and Enduring Curiosity in this matchup, but if we cut all the Sirens and Bats, then suddenly our good cards aren't good cards anymore. So you do have to think about having, well-balanced deck and, like you said, maintaining the core and the structure. And yes, Spyglass Siren is an unassuming card. It's hard to consider it your best card in any given matchup, but it is just important to the way the deck functions. So yeah, perfect example.
Great. Getting all of gold stars today. All right. Let's see. So this hand, very interesting. I'm very inclined to keep this because it's a pretty aggressive hand. We have the stroke Shieldred. There's 2 Masterminds for their I'm going to call it Phyrexian Arena. I actually don't know what's called.
Unholy Annex.
Yeah, they're for their Unholy Annex, and also just like a flash threat, which is pretty good, and also can just draw us cards. And I think like the match is going to go long, so I kind of just want to have a lot of cards. I don't want to let them like rip my hand up when I'm at like 6 or 5.
I agree. Sounds great.
Cool. Let's see what they do. Swamp into Duress. No more stroke. So they could get that Shieldred or whatever they want through at the moment, but plenty more draw steps. Pretty simple. We'll play the Siren. Well, it was slightly less simple before drawing that Darkslick Shores, because I had to think for a second, like Underground River first and play Siren, or play that Restless Reef so we can play the Fairy Mastermind. And before drawing the Darkslick Shores that saved everything and simplified everything, I think I was going to do the Siren first regardless, because next turn we can still just play another Siren, put damage on them, because his hand's inherently aggressive. And then, like, the next turn, you know, we can still flash in a Mastermind. Like, plenty more plays to make. Versus the other way, we, like, play that tapped, flash in a Mastermind, they kill it, then, like, seem kind of slow.
I agree.
Let's see what they do here. Cruel Claws Heist. This is like another discard effect, right? You exile a card, and then you could play it if you gift, right? You may cast it if it was gift. Yeah.
Yep. So if they cast it without the gift, it's just exile any non-land card from your hand.
Take too fast. Okay. I drew another Mastermind, which is kind of funny, because Thought Seize Bug, except for Heist Seize Bug. Okay. What do we do here? We can play Mastermind, or I think map first, see what we're drawing, make a decision, put more damage, and then play the other Siren. Because they know we have Mastermind. Go for the throw. Yes, keep it. Tap Restless Reef, draw, go for and then go to combat.
Looks like your play may have worked out really, really well because they wanted to spend this turn using a removal spell, and so you didn't present your juicy removal target on the turn that they wanted to spend their mana that way. Yeah, so great.
Yeah, that's why Spyglass Siren is so good, right? Because you can pump it into like a 2-power threat, but it feels incredibly bad to spend your removal, like your premium removal on it, but they eventually have to. And then it ends up clearing the way for like a Mastermind or something. Fable Passage, and I think here, another duress. What's this? Oh, it's so good.
That's painful from their perspective.
Very painful, yeah. Because at this point I figure like they just really need to draw something, because I assume their hand was like Unholy Annexes and then discard effects and maybe a removal spell. And then if we rip a land here, we're in a really good spot. There it is. This game's a little more straightforward than the last one.
Yeah, you know, like as you highlighted a couple interesting spots regarding the land drops and what to spend your mana on in the early turns, but yeah, it looks like it's going really well.
And then we also draw the Go for the Throat with a negate backup. All right, here we just go for the throat on the Sheldred. I believe that's lethal, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, it's 8. Exactly 8.
Okay, nice job, Rebel.
Thank you. All right. Is there anything to go over that game aside from? I honestly think that game, the most important part was just like sequencing our plays, because most of it was pretty like direct.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, sideboarding to give yourself the best chance to making a good, clean mulligan decision. So all of these little tight plays added up to, you know, the deck just functioning exactly the way you want it to.
Yeah, the second game, the deck really did its thing. It was very cool. So is there anything you wanted to talk about from watching those games?
I think we covered it, really. Yeah, you know, in terms of like, not specific to any of the plays that you made, but just a, you know, big picture approach to the game. Those turns where your opponent makes an unusual play or passes with open mana or doesn't make the play that you expect them to, just always be like thinking deeply about those things and trying to process exactly what's going on and what their perspective on the game is. And there's not always a clear answer to that, but you know, I tend to think of it as like, as the game goes on, you gather tiny pieces of information with each play your opponent makes or doesn't make. And then sometimes in a key moment, you can put those pieces together to make a, you know, an educated guess of what they might have in their hand. But that just requires like being thoughtful and noticing in the first place.
Yeah. So just to close this one out, I think today the main lessons that I'm taking away with for everyone at home is just like, one thing that we really saw pay off in these matches is like thinking about how the match is going to go, because like in both instances we understand that this game could go long. In the first one we played towards it going long, the second one we played towards it not letting it go long, right? So 2 different ways of playing it, but just knowing like how it's going to go and making those sequencing around that was really key to this. And as you said, those little edges, thinking about like, if I made that fish, even though it was such a tiny decision, if they had a good draw at any of those moments near the end, like that was lights out for us. We were like, it was done, right? So I think like we did give them like a turn, maybe a turn or two extra with how much life like they saved off us not having a fish. So again, the thinking about those little decisions, making sure like they all add up to kind of like the ending of the game. And I think that's it. One thing I like to do at the end is if you were to give me a score on how I played this game, what would you give? It can be 1 out of 5, 1 out of 10, can be letter grading, whatever you want.
Okay, great question. So 1 out of 10, I wouldn't say it's a perfect 10, but it's definitely you got the main points really well, and you even made some really insightful plays that I might not have made myself, including like around that virtue of persistence in the first game. So it would be high. Should we call it an 8 out of 10?
Well, I'll happily take an 8.
Yeah, impressed by the mulligans, the sideboarding, the thoughtfulness in terms of planning out the game, and even some great unintuitive plays like the virtue. So those are all high marks, gold stars to use your phrase.
Thank you so much. I'm gonna put that in the back. I'm gonna put like an 8 out of 10 and sign your name on it. If you like this video, please subscribe to my Patreon. Every dollar goes to paying coaches to be on the series for all of us to learn from. Thanks for watching.